Sometimes, the best way to solve your own problems is to help someone else. This is a quote that Iroh told Korra in the spirit world. This quote not only perfectly sums up Iroh as a man, but it also perfectly sums up his journey throughout Avatar: The Last Airbender. Iroh is a fan favorite character, so it's really no surprise that his lore gets expanded upon post Avatar: The Last Airbender. Before Iroh died, he spent his final moments writing a book detailing everything that Zuko needed to do in order to carry on the legacy of the Fire Nation. Iroh really lays it all out here, from ancient history to his childhood to death. Here is Iroh's final lesson to Zuko. Before we start talking about one of the greatest characters in all of fiction, let's talk about one of the best games out right now, and that is today's sponsor. This video is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends. Raid Shadow Legends is a mobile RPG that is taking the world by storm, with their AAA quality graphics that can fit right in your pocket and be played at any time. Explore millions of champion combinations and master countless tactics as you take on raid bosses, dungeon runs, campaign battles, and PvP arenas. With hundreds of artifacts to equip and over 600 champions, all with their own unique skills and unique backstories. Personally, my favorite champions are Judge, Arbiter, and Kyoku. However, my favorite faction is the High Elves. Their backstory just interests me so much. Their homeland, Aravia, it's been around for thousands of years, surviving the fall of the Lizardman Empire. They even helped humans form into civilizations, and defeating the orcs when they formed into a huge horde and attacked the continent. Things got really crazy when a bunch of elves got convinced to go evil and attack the kingdom. This civil war nearly ended the elves, but they survived, rebuilt, and now they're stronger than ever. This month is absolutely huge for Raid. They just released a brand new faction called the Sylvan Watchers, and they have some amazing new champions, and personally, I cannot wait to summon them all. And for whatever reason, if that's not enough, Raid has got a full lineup of events along with a new season of the Forge Pass, where you can get your hands on some of the most powerful gear the game has ever seen. And if you're an Amazon Prime member, you can get your exclusive rewards in Raid right now. New players, use my link or scan the QR code right here and get a free starter pack worth almost $30. You get a free champion Aina and also this cool in-game loot. You're gonna find the rewards here in your inbox, but only for the next 30 days. Once you're in, you can find me in-game under the name The Avatars, and if you're fast enough, you can join my clan. Just click the link in the description down below, and I'll see you guys in the game. A gift for Zuko. Iroh starts off this book telling Zuko that this is a gift for him. These pages represent the truth, or at least the truth how he saw it. He hopes that these pages will remind Zuko of his presence long after he's gone. Iroh goes on to tell Zuko that he's in his final days now, and he doesn't want this book to be a burden. Instead, he prays that this book will be a comfort to Zuko. Most knowledge must be earned. However, if Iroh's lucky, this book will negate that and allow Zuko to borrow his knowledge. He ends off the introduction to this book foreshadowing something very important. The shadowed past. The older Iroh grew, he realized looking back at all of his past mistakes while trying to move forward will just cause him to trip over and fall on his face. Basically, what Iroh means by this is that their shared past and the history that their family share is a great place to start this journey. Iroh is writing these letters from a personal perspective. Many of these events Zuko already knows very well. However, Iroh is asking Zuko to listen anyway and hear things out from his perspective. There's going to be things in here that will shock Zuko, things that are hard to hear, things that he will disagree with, but he hopes that Zuko will just at least entertain the idea that Iroh could be right and hear him out. Ancient history, Roku and Sozin. History is often written by the conquerors, and not the ones that were conquered. But even that is a matter of perspective. If you're on a beach and you see a massive rock from one side, you can only guess and imagine what the other side might look like. If you want to know for sure what the other side looks like, you actually have to walk around and see it for yourself. Iroh goes on to compare this lesson to benders, because doing this little exercise takes patience, something that most benders tend to lack. The story of Prince Sozin and Roku over the years has been passed down as a fairy tale. The real story comes down to friends who were just like brothers, but eventually became enemies. Iroh explains how when you're a kid, things like power, money, influence, all of these things matter very little. However, things change when you grow older. Prince Sozin became Fire Lord Sozin, Roku became the Avatar. Sozin was very jealous of Avatar Roku's power, and this caused him to actually build up the armies of the Fire Nation. If Sozin could not be the Avatar himself, the next best thing is to take the power from all of the other nations by force. Although in the end, Sozin actually pretended to be friendly towards Roku, but when it came down to it, when he needed him the most, he left Roku to die. With Avatar Roku finally gone, Sozin used the power of the comet to take down the air nomads and launch his invasion on the entire world. Iroh goes on to say that the entire reason for the 100-year-long war was solely because of Sozin's pride. Sozin Azulon. The pressure that Zuko did and still does feel from his father and his family lineage reminds Iroh of his own time as a young man. There was joy, but only the kind he could get from being too young and naive. There was heat, but not warmth, growing up in the Fire Nation. Being the grandson of Sozin and the son of Azulon meant being born into a world filled with war. War, destruction, desolation, and the manipulation of other people. These were all just part of the family business. Iroh tells Zuko this is how he lived many years of his life, and all he wanted to do was please his father and grandfather. Eventually, after many years, Iroh would lose many things before he realized that the craving of power and violence, that couldn't be satisfied. The role he was born into didn't have to be how his story ends. Iroh chose not to honor the legacy that they were laying out for him and desperately wanted the family to change, but he never saw that change until he met Zuko. He finally saw the chance to change the course of their family through Zuko and give him the life he failed to give himself and Luten. My brother Ozai. From the day Iroh saw Ozai, he knew the fire burned bright within him. He was stubborn, he was impatient, and it felt like nothing could slow him down. Not even him. As they grew up, they also grew in competitiveness. But Ozai's ambitions were far greater than Iroh's. Ozai was always going into fits of rage over small little pie show games. He would get angry and flip the board, throwing all of the pieces into the air and then burning them all. In school, he was ruthless. Iroh admits, at first, he was a little bit envious of that, but over time, it became more and more clear that Ozai was going to burn everybody and anyone near him. The fire within the people, the Fire Nation, the fire within Ozai, and even Zuko. This fire has the ability to provide warmth, inspire community, and sharpen the spirit. However, when not used carefully, it can and will destroy, break, and lay waste to the entire world. Iroh says when he looks Ozai in the eyes, he only sees fire and ash, and in his chest, a heart of ice. Sometimes Iroh blames himself for how Ozai turned out. He says he should have been a better guide for his brother, but looking back instead of forward is a fool's game, and he's too old to play fool. There has been many times where Iroh has seen glimpses of Ozai within Zuko, but even more than that, he always knew that Zuko would become the man that he wishes Ozai was. The Secrets of the White Lotus. The Order of the White Lotus was always meant to be kept as secret. It wasn't until the world needed them that they exposed themselves. Basically, the White Lotus is a group of like-minded individuals from all of the nations. Their main goal was always sharing knowledge and their path to enlightenment. Eventually, they were forced into expanding their duties to training and protecting the Avatar. Luten's death. The siege of Ba Sing Se was momentarily Iroh's greatest military victory. His military had just reached the walls of Ba Sing Se, but at that moment, he also experienced his greatest defeat. Nearby, his son, Luten, laid there dying. War comes with a heavy cost. Iroh never knew how high this cost really was until that day. He lost his pride, he lost his place within the nation, he lost his own family, and worst of all, his own son. The man he used to be also died that day. That day, Iroh was reborn. All of these horrible fates that he had experienced were just setting him up to go on the path of enlightenment, the path to help Zuko. Most people don't get a second chance at anything, let alone the second chance at life, but thanks to Zuko, he got much more than a second chance. Iroh eventually went into the spirit world to try to find Luten, however, he was unsuccessful. Instead, he found himself. He renewed his passion for life. He was no longer the general who took life. He was now the uncle who strived to protect it. What Iroh ultimately lost in Luten, he gained it in Zuko. Travels with Zuko. One of the most touching parts of this book is when Iroh talks about all of the time he spent with Zuko. Early on, Iroh realized capturing the Avatar was never really about Aang. This was like his journey in the spirit world. This was about the hunt for Zuko to find himself. Iroh goes on to say, through the ups and downs, through the heartbreak, through the disappointment, there is nothing he would trade for the time he spent with Zuko. The road ahead. This is the part of the book where Iroh is getting old. He doesn't know how much longer he has to live, but he isn't scared. It's taken him a long time to develop the love for uncertainty, but now it's there. Iroh has decided that one day soon, he's going to leave behind his body and journey into the spirit world. His work now is done in this world. He's going to move on. He wishes Zuko could come with him, but he knows Zuko has so much work that he still needs to do in this world. This is the very last thing Iroh did before he died, so I'm just gonna read read it out for you guys. Zuko, this is likely the last entry I will make in this journal. I could never tire of the sound of my own voice, but I do know its silence will signal something better. The future. In my very first letter to you, I was only half joking when I called this book The Legacy of the Fire Nation. You, Zuko, and the choices you make going forward, not the ramblings of an old man, are the true legacy of the Fire Nation. The past, like the treasured memories of my time with you, are ashes on the wind, nothing more. The only fires keeping alive are the ones that we light for the future, for our children, nephews, nieces, and grandchildren. As I prepare to move into the spirit world, I trust you to that good work, my prince. I'll miss your voice and your face, my nephew. But know that I am proud of you and always have been. With love and admiration, your Uncle Iroh. P.S. The more you practice your Pai Sho, the better you'll get at it. Probably, but maybe it's just not your game.